Hi guys, it's Tracy back again for another 5 Things You Need to Know series. We are getting ready for Craft Week around here. That is going to be October 21st through the 25th. And we're going to be making this fun sign. It's a double-sided porch sign or porch leaner, but it's pretty large. So you can either keep all the pieces separate or you can glue it together like I did to make a porch leaner. Then that way you can flip it over and turn it into pumpkins and have it double-sided. So we're going to be making this. We're going to be adding a vinyl wording to this side during the class too, but we're going to make the whole entire thing from scratch during our live craft week. And gearing up for Craft Week, we are doing this 5 Things You Need to Know series. So we've gone over the tools you need to know. I can't remember what we talked about yesterday. I think it was 5 things you need to know about Craft Week. And then today we're going to talk about 5 tips for using vinyl and stencil material with your Cricut machine. I know not everybody in that's coming to Craft Week is going to be using their Cricut machine. In fact, let me post a link. Hang on. Let me get the right link. Hang on. If you want more information, you can find it here about Craft Week. Yeah. And yeah, you got to post it. Anyway, we're going to be making this double-sided sign. Some people want to just make these pieces individual, the ornament pieces individual, and not glue them together. That's totally up to you. That's definitely one of the list of questions we've been getting. We're going to go over the Q&A of a bunch of different questions we have been getting tomorrow, I believe. And so we're gonna answer all those extra questions you guys have been having, but feel free to ask. We're happy to help you. So today we're going to talk about vinyl, and I'm going to show you a couple different types of vinyl too, because, well, let me back up. Not everybody wants to cut their own vinyl, which I know, and we have a craft ambassador, Janine, in our Facebook group who does cut vinyl for people. So that was a we got today. And so I know when we're talking about vinyl, not everybody happens to have a cutting machine, and you don't even have to have a Cricut machine. You just need to be able to cut SVG files. So first of all, if you haven't met me, I'm Tracy. I own Print Cut Craft. We help people learn how to use their Cricut cutting machine as well as DIY projects, and we do DTF transfer crafting too. So, but during Craft Week, we're going to be doing showing you how to use if you want to do a stencil or if you just want to do regular vinyl on your projects. So I did all of this side with stencils. And this side, we just hand painted. So I'm going to show you how to paint pumpkins. But this one, I did it with stencils because I wanted to get the right coloring that I wanted. But because we all know vinyl doesn't come in all the specific colors you may or may not want. And so that's where you might want to consider using a stencil. Or if you want it to be quick and easy, then I would use vinyl. So I actually am going to be using vinyl for the majority of my projects, but I am going to show how to use a stencil too. Just so you guys can have help with that. But the first thing about when you're picking your vinyl for Craft Week or just in general is knowing what are you going to do with your project. So there's different types of vinyl. There's permanent and removable. There's stencil vinyl. There's heat transfer vinyl. There's puff vinyl. So it just all depends what look you're going for and what application it's going to be for. For Craft Week, we're just going to do permanent vinyl and regular stencil material and then transfer tape. So let me show you what that kind of looks like. So let me actually switch this to that. So this just happens to be a piece of cream. I should have grabbed a darker color, but this is just permanent vinyl. This is what I use 99.9% of the time. It's got a wax paper backing, and then this one happens to have a grid on the back, which helps me cut like the right number of inches that I need. And so this one, if you're local, we had to join us in Oak Ridge. If you're not, they have one downtown in Houston too. And so they have my favorite vinyl that cuts so well. But there's lots of different vinyls, and you'll find a vinyl that you like and that cuts really well for you. And once you kind of have one, people kind of tend to stick with what works for them. this one happens to work for me. And so the other vinyl we're going to use during craft week is stencil vinyl. This one is a sheer translucent vinyl. It's again has a wax paper backing, and you can see it's like translucent. And so that way, when you place it on your project, you can see where it's going. And I like it because you know where you're placing things. So these are the two types of vinyl I'm going to be using, but I'll go get, this is just if you're going to paint with specific colors of paint, or if you choose to paint the whole sign. This can just help you out. You could freehand it if you want to too, but I'm going to be using permanent vinyl for the majority of my projects since I already have pre-recorded videos of me doing all the stencil work. When you come to craft week, you're going to get the SVG files, pre-recorded videos, instruction booklet, and you're going to get me teaching it live too. So we're going to show you the best of both worlds. Then you're going to be needing, well, let me go back to the difference between permanent vinyl and removable vinyl. I don't even buy removable vinyl anymore because you can just actually heat the permanent vinyl up and remove it. So it's like, there's not, to me, it's not really worth buying removable vinyl. I know maybe some people like it. I don't. I just use this now because it's only one thing I have to buy instead of two. And then you don't have to worry about storing double the material. But if for some reason you're wanting something really temporary, removable vinyl could be a good pick for you. But again, like I've done this on wood signs or chalkboard signs. And then when I'm done with it, I just heat it up, pull it off. So it works fine for me. And then definitely if you're going to be using stencil vinyl, you definitely need to have a really, that's not the right one, a really dry brush. You cannot have any moisture in your paintbrush at all when doing stencil material because it can leak under the stencil. And then the other thing you're going to need is some transfer tape. I like to use like a light to mid tack transfer tape. If it's too powerfully strong, it's really hard to pull off the project. And that's why I don't recommend, while I love Cricut and Cricut products, I do not love their transfer tape. It is so powerfully strong. It's great probably if you're doing a glitter, anything with glitter in the vinyl because that needs a stickier transfer tape. But in general, everyday use, I just use a medium to lightweight tack vinyl, and I get mine on an Amazon store that happens to be one of my customers called Vinyl Ease. They have several choices to choose from. So this one just happens to have a wax paper backing and a grid front. You can get them in a roll like this where you just pull it off and use it. So it's just your preference. And so that's definitely something you're going to need for craft week. The next thing is preparing your surface, and we're doing it on wood. So as long as your wood is good and smooth and sanded, and we manufacture our own kits. And so in general, you shouldn't have any problems at all with your wood. But sometimes if you're shopping for your own supplies for craft week, you might get wood that's a little fuzzy or it needs to be sanded before you actually place vinyl on it. Then you may have to prep the surface and just make sure, wipe it down really good so it's really free of debris and dirt and dust and sawdust and all of that. So your material has the best chance of sticking to your whatever you're putting it on. And then the next tip is adjusting your Cricut settings. I'm going to be using a Cricut Maker during craft week, and it's so easy to pick your settings in Design Space. We walk you through this step by step, and so that part is going to be easy to follow along with. And then, but if you happen to have the Explorer, I wouldn't suggest trying to do this unless we have a big size and we have a mini size of the sign. The mini size is 8 inches. If you have a Cricut Joy, then I would maybe try doing the mini project. It's going to be pretty hard to do the big porcelainer with a Joy, which is small, which is like that little baby one right there. But that one now comes in 2 different sizes. So you can do it, but I would probably stick with the 8-inch smaller kit that we have, or go buy some smaller rounds or other things that you want to attach together if you want to do that. But basically it's knowing which setting you need. And we're going to walk you through that during craft week. But it happens to be my favorite is just a permanent vinyl setting. And then it's just a matter of doing some test cuts and understanding what's going to cut best for your project. So we're going to go walk you through all of that. If you have cutting tips or cutting problems or things aren't cutting right, you can just put take a picture of it or whatever, or put a message in the Facebook group for Craft Week, and we can help you walk through how to troubleshoot that. And it all depends too, like all the different vinyl types you're going to be using. Your machine will tell you. You're just going to pick whatever vinyl that you happen to be using, heat transfer, a puff vinyl, or glitter vinyl. Those all have different settings, even plastic and all the balsa wood and all of that. They all have different settings. You're just going to pick whichever one that's the most applicable to what you're using. Weeding tips is the next one. We're going to be talking and showing you how to weed, but basically weeding, say we're cutting a heart out of our vinyl. Weeding is just taking the excess away if you want to use the vinyl, and you're doing the opposite with the stencil because you want to pull out the heart and leave the rest around it. So when you're painting it in, you're left with that heart shape. So they're the same exact process. It's just you're weeding out different parts if you're going to be using stencil vinyl or if you're going to be using permanent vinyl. And just especially if you guys are new and it's just going slow and just, you know, some people get really frustrated weeding. And I think first of all, the biggest reason they get frustrated is because the machine is not cutting correctly. You might not have the right pressure. Hey, Janine, you might not have, the right material picked. And so it just all depends on what that is and how that looks for your machine. This is why it's so important to do some test cuts before you even start. You just practice with whatever material you're going to use so you don't waste a bunch of material that costs you a lot of money. So, but it happens if you're weeding something and it doesn't cut right, that happens. But we can overcome all of those things with picking the right material, picking the right pressure, and then doing some test cuts. Also, when application tips, when you're applying stencil material or vinyl, to use your transfer tape. You have to transfer it from one surface to the other, and you do that with transfer tape. So basically, we're going to, let's just say we're cutting out the heart on here. We're going to stick the transfer tape once we weed it onto the top of it, and then this is going to be transferred over to our wood. And then that's how we're getting the vinyl over there and then transferred onto our surface. And so you're going to be using like a credit card, a squeegee, or something like plastic scraper tool for that. And then you are going to be needing a weeding tool, which don't have mine right here. I don't know where I put my weeding tool, but I'll have to show you that. I showed them yesterday or the day before when it came to what tools you need. So anyway, as long as you're smoothing out your surface, getting rid of any bubbles or bumps, and then making sure you scrape it with a decent pressure, that will transfer your vinyl onto your wood project. And so all these things we're going to be walking you through step by step during Craft Week. And then as usual, you guys, I'm live with you every single night, and I'm happy to show you something again and again. And so if you have a question or you need me to show you something, then just make sure you put it in the Facebook group or in the comments when we're live, and we'll totally help you and get back to you with whatever help you need. All right, guys, I am going to run. That is our 5 tips for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be coming back with information about our Print Cut Craft Club and our all those questions you guys have been asking about Craft Week. I just want to make sure that we answer every single thing that you guys have been asking. We have in your comments and in your emails, but I just want to make sure we have another reference here in case you have the question, but you haven't submitted it to us. So I will see you guys back here tomorrow at 3 for our Q&A. Talk to you later, guys.